Hi, I'm Richard Donovan, Head of Social Innovation here at Experian. At Experian, our focus is on helping people thrive on their financial journeys, and through that commitment we see a huge amount of work and innovation through our products, through our services, through the relationships we have with our clients. But we also do a huge amount in our communities as well, and I want to share one of those stories with you today. Recently we formally launched our partnership with local Nottingham charity Switch Up, a fantastic group of people who work with young people who have grown up in difficult circumstances. A little while ago I sat down with the CEO and founder of Switch Up, Dr. Marcellus Baz, and two of the young people that Switch Up supports, Brooke and Kay. And I started by asking Baz what Switch Up's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Switch Up is about a lot of struggles that communities go through, from especially disadvantaged communities, and that's what inspired me to set Switch Up, because I was one of those young people in communities that were deprived. I come from a family where there was mental health. I didn't have a father figure. I was dyslexic, so when I was in school I used to get excluded a lot, so mainstream school went right for me. I ended up getting involved in criminality, gangs, selling drugs, going down the wrong path, until there was some adverse experiences where I was stabbed numerous times. And then I started to introspect and think, what, I've got to look at why are so many people going down the wrong path? What is the issues in our communities? What are the problems? And I started to look at my own life and lives of other people in my communities, and came up with a model that now is an award-winning model that is transforming people's lives, and it's giving people support in certain areas with a mentor that's walking them through the support. So if they relapse, we walk back with them. If they continue to grow and develop, we walk forwards with them. We understand their challenges and we speak their language, and that support is made up of 5-pillar approach of mentoring, therapy, education. We're an alternative education provider, physical activity, predominantly boxing, and employability support. And we ultimately transition young people into employment, traineeships, apprenticeships, or education.
And we're sat in a boxing gym at the moment, and you mentioned physical activity. How important is that on top of all the other pillars that you mentioned?
It's massive. Physical activity gives young people that growth mindset, that work ethic. It helps them to develop skills, life skills, things like timekeeping, respect, discipline. But ultimately, it gives you that confidence, self-esteem, to be able to feel good about yourself and to be able to take on opportunities with your chest out and your chin up, you know what I mean?
Can you just talk about the relationship that you have got with Experian and National Literacy Trust and how that came about?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We got introduced to National Literacy Trust, and we realised that they had this course that we could deliver, and we realised, wow, we don't learn about this sort of stuff. And when we spoke to kids that are even in school, they don't learn about this sort of stuff. So we're thinking, why are we not teaching more young people, giving them that knowledge around money? Money is the thing that makes the world go round, literally. And education, if you got education, you work less hours, you make more money, you know what I mean? So it's a win-win situation. So what I wanted to do from having conversations with yourself was, okay, this financial literacy course, when I was speaking to National Literacy Trust, is aimed at people in mainstream education. So, it was going to people who already got that support network in place. But what I wanted to do, and I had a chat with you, is, can we deliver this to people that are not in mainstream education? People like myself had been excluded from school. We need to be able to be inclusive, and we need to devise a program that, everybody can become financial literate. Everybody should be financial literate. So we worked in partnership with Experian, and we started to deliver that course to young people that have been excluded from school, that would otherwise never have the opportunity to become financial literate with such a great course like that. And, I'm here with two amazing people that are, excluded from school and now working with us, and who've been through the financial literacy words that count education course.
I think that's a great moment to bring in Brooke. I'd love to know a little bit about your background and how you came to switch up in the first instance.
Didn't really get on in mainstream. I got kicked out there in year 7 and then moved around to APs all up until year 10. And then it was just a massive pillar of my mental health going down and stuff, the drugs and everything. I was in with the wrong crowd. Then I got kicked out of one of my APs and then got moved here. And I did a lot better for me. I got off the drugs and everything. I sorted my life out. I've been doing a lot better.
Congratulations on that. That takes a lot, I'm sure. What kind of support do you get from Switch Up? How do the people at Switch Up help you?
Well, I always speak to a leader about my problems and stuff, and she'll just give me good advice, like stuff that I'll actually need for the future, and not stuff that I'll get from my friends that will just be childish. Like, I get proper advice on how to make my own decisions, not follow crowds and stuff. And to be honest, if anyone's ever going to be there for you, you can only be there for yourself.
And she's your mentor?
Yes.
And it's not easy to step away from what everyone else is doing. What are some of the big challenges that you face when you're in those kind of situations with your friends?
Well, there's lots of knife crime that goes on and stuff. No one really listens to what you say. Like, you can have other people's backs, but are they going to really have yours? Probably not. I've seen a lot of that being, like, people being sneaky and stuff, and it's just opened my eyes a lot.
And so you've gone through the financial literacy course. Yeah, words that count. How did you find it?
It was fun. I got through it quite quickly.
I'm not sure most people would talk about financial education as fun, so that's a good sign for sure. What was your kind of understanding of money before you went in there? Were there any things that you took from the course that have really helped you in your day-to-day?
How to manage bank accounts and stuff. It's something everyone needs to know in life, how to deal with money, because everyone spends money stupidly and just doesn't know how to manage it correctly, and it's something everyone needs in life.
Absolutely. Money matters, man.
Okay, can we turn to you now? So again, love to know a little bit about your background and how you came to Switch Up in the first place.
So I started Switch Up probably about halfway through year 10.
Which year are you in now?
Year 12.
Okay.
And it started off from having youth justice workers and social services. I had drugs worker as well. And a lot of my issues came from being from a deprived area, being from an area where there's not a lot of ways where people make money legitimately. And growing up in that environment, you start to see how many opportunities are there to make money illegally. So I started chilling with older people. I started taking drugs. I started dealing drugs. I started carrying weapons with me. And it got to a point where my youth justice worker, or my yacht worker, was like, just try this thing. And I was a little bit hesitant at first, everyone's always like, is it going to work? Should I try it? All of this. And I was like, you know what? Why not? I'll give it a shot. And when I got here, my mentor, Scott, he helped me through a lot of things personally. He showed me that there was more than just the street life and money and, my friends and whatnot. And like what Baz said about the boxing, that's the primary thing Switch Up is known for. But me personally, I'm not very much of a boxer. I don't really do all of that. And at first, it kind of had me worried. I was like, is this going to work for me? But I realised that they do other stuff other than boxing. So me personally, I like to make music, songwriter, lyricist. So they got me up in a couple of studios up here. They got me in a studio down in Mansfield. Started working there, started releasing tracks, started making music with other small creators like myself around my age. Made a few nice connections, and then everything was going good. They got me on forest school as well. That was quite nice. I did like forest school, just being out in the wildlife for maybe 1.5 hours. Quite nice. Just being away from heavily built up areas like estates and all of this. It's nice to take a step back from that sometimes, take a break.
Awesome. And I know, Baz, that Kay has been helping you kind of, and there's something about the individual approach with Switch Up, which clearly comes out, you know, looking at individual needs, and you're working with the likes of Kay on the next iteration of how Words That Count could appeal.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm proud of these two. And, you know, just to be able to talk about your stories as well is powerful. You know, I'm really proud of them. And, you know, Caleb now is in college. He's at Confetti, you know, so he's got aspirations to do big things. He's also as part of our youth council. So he, you know, scrutinizes our services and tells us what we should do right, what we should do wrong. What we're doing wrong, and it's always about that learning and that, you know, young people being the center of what we do, which aligns with, you know, when young people are center of what you do, you've got to communicate, you've got to understand them, and they've got to understand you and use the right language. So we came up with looking at the financial literacy handbook. And we thought, well, why don't we be more creative with this and change the wording that's more relatable to young people from where we come from? So Caleb and there's another few young people that came together as a group, and we started to reword the financial literacy training manual. Caleb, I don't know if you want to tell us a little bit about why do you think we decided to do that, and why do you think it's important that we do that? Like, for example, having a lot of money is like stacking. Yeah. Why do you think changing the words to words what man use on road? Why is that helpful?
So obviously, with a lot of young people, they're not gonna know all of the big fancy legal words. So I feel like it's important to change that into a language that they would understand and they do actually acknowledge, rather than us saying, oh yeah, this is that, you know, all of this, and then they just don't understand what we're saying.
Baz, what do you see as the kind of next natural steps? What are your hopes for the future?
My hope for the future is that we can deliver this course to more young people that are not in mainstream education, young people that may never have the opportunity to be able to, you know, receive such amazing training and to be financial literate. And I think if we can refine the course so that it's more understandable, it's more appealing, it's more sexy, you know, people are going to want to be part of it. You know, we've got young people here that have said that the course is fun now. And now when we start changing the language up, it's going to be different. It's going to be like, yo, that man are using these words and stuff like that. Don't you reckon that people are going to be thinking, I won't mind doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like walking into that, doing the whole word changing with Baz and whatnot, it also taught me a lot, because I went in there thinking, right, so we're going to change a few words, make it sound a little bit more, you know, like you said, the terminology is going to be easier for people like me to understand. And when we actually got there, we was looking at the words and we was looking at this sheet, it's like half the words on there, couldn't even pronounce them. So, and then that's where it really, something hit a switch in my brain, and I was like, right, this is actually serious. Like, I'll be completely honest, I was going there for like, oh, you know, bit of time to spend and whatnot. And I saw it and I was like, you know, if we actually do this, we take this seriously, we can help people.
I think we've got to think out the box. We've got to make it more inclusive, and everybody needs to be financial literate. Doesn't matter what class, race, area, whether it's low socially economic areas or whatever. I think everybody needs to be financial literate, and what we want to be able to do is work with Experian, work with National Literacy Trust, work with the young people, and go out there and deliver it.
I think that's a really good way to draw this to a close. But guys, thank you ever so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your stories as well.